Happy Monday, my friends. This is Thad Riley and episode number 242 of the Thadcast. And it's a very different episode. It really is, because Mondays are Monday motivation, and this may not be to a lot of your liking. Some of you may love this episode at the end of it. I don't even know, but I'm going to share some stuff with you today. A lot of times we talk about moving forward and what the power those words can have over our life. And when I talk about moving forward, it's like this Monday thing, this like, let's get up and go kind of thing. Let's go to the next level, right? And you'll hear people market themselves in your business, in your relationships, in your body, in your soul. And it's like this achievement world that we live in, telling us to go, go, go. And then when we get there, we're like, oh, it's not what we really thought it was going to be in any way. So I think the conversation in our world today, in our culture, is convoluted with different and sometimes weird personal desires that don't connect to everybody. So what I want to talk to you today about is a little bit more at the root of it. I was watching The Lord of the Rings last night, and there was this moment that pulled me in. It took me back to a place that I left, 6 years ago? Almost 6 years ago now. And I remember driving away from Dayton, Ohio, thinking, I'll never live here again. I was born in Dayton in 1971. We lived there until 1980, and my parents moved to Chicago so I could form all of my sports team affiliations in Chicago, which works, right? Because the Bulls had just drafted Jordan, the Bears won a Super Bowl, the Cubs finally made the playoffs. So I had this like Chicago thing. And then I ended up back in Dayton years later, 6 years later, 7 years later, I was back in Dayton. And we lived there for about another decade, and then I ended up moving to Chicago and getting married, and then there were some problems, and I ended up back in Dayton for a second time back in Dayton. It's like hometown just keep calling you home. But something broke in 2013 within me. And I remember thinking back, how long had it been since I'd cried? And it was 22 years. So it was, I believe, 1991, around Christmas of 1991, just after, right before 92. And so it was about probably, 21 years, 22 years. And then in March of 2013, in the shock and early stages of my divorce, I was like so messed up. I was just really hurt. And I'd been hurt and devastated, not just by the actions of my now ex. And if you know my story, there were some actions there. But I was also very hurt by the actions of people in our community and friends of mine and people that I had loved and respected who had done some things that I couldn't even believe. And there's been a lot of reconciliation. There's been a lot of forgiveness. Please don't mishear me on that. That has been offered to everybody. But it doesn't mean that I'm the same person I was before this. I'm not. I mean, you don't take a 6'2", 250-pound man and have him bawling his eyes out, having to flee work in the middle of the day so he can get in his car and go cry the pain of his life. I was in a space where I didn't know who to call. I had a psychiatrist, I had a therapist helping me to figure out what was going on and how to get through this. I was at a point where I wasn't allowed legally to speak to my children because of false accusations made against me. By God's grace, those accusations were exposed publicly. And I was beautifully exonerated in so many ways, in ways that only God could prove my innocence, right? This is good. It's an incredible thing that God did for me. But you don't have something like that happen to you and not be a different person because of it. So I was different. I am different than I was before that. Some would say more humble. Some might say more patient and thoughtful before I speak and give counsel to others. Less idealistic and more just wanting to be in the room with folks to help them through something, to just be a quiet friend and to maybe not act like you have any answers at all, but just to be there and to love other people. But I was definitely broken in a way that I still look back and can't fathom happened to me in my adult life. If worse things happen to other people, oh yeah, way worse. But for me, this was tough. And it's still, in a way, almost impossible to reconcile and understand why some of the people did some of those things. So I'm watching the end of Lord of the Rings. And Frodo's talking. And I'll read some of his speech to you. 13 months to the day since Gandalf sent us on our journey, we found ourselves looking upon a familiar sight. We were home. How do you pick up the threads of an old life? How do you go on? When in your heart you begin to understand there is no going back? There are some things that time cannot mend, some hurts that go too deep, that have taken hold. Bilbo once told me his part in this tale would end, that each of us must come and go in the telling. Bilbo's story was now over. There would be no more journeys for him save one. My dear Sam, you cannot always be torn in two. You will have to be one and whole for many years. You have so much to enjoy and to be and to do. Your part in the story will go on. All the beautiful poetic works of J.R.R. Tolkien. How do you pick up the threads of an old life? Is that not like the line of where we are today as a culture? And how do you, the next part, how do you go on when in your heart you understand there's no going back? Some things time cannot mend, some hurts that go too deep, that have taken hold. So I think, my friends, what I reconcile through that, and through what I've experienced in the moment of the greatest suffering in my life, is we don't have to go back. We can move forward into something different and something new. We don't have to be the same person that we were before. We don't have to eat the same foods. We don't have to wake up at the same hour. We don't have to continue in a toxic friendship. We don't have to be on social media if it hurts us, if it hurts others. We don't have to allow pornography to harm us anymore. We can resist that. We don't have to joke all the time and act like alcohol is our way of coping and of dealing with things. We don't have to say to ourselves, I could never do this, but because maybe we could. Maybe we should. We don't have to be the same. I found Jesus at the age of 4. And I think because of my relationship with him, that was how I was able to hold together through that time. He kept my faith strong and kept my eyes turning to him all the time. Like I was broken, our world is broken today. Very deeply broken and confused. Where do we go from here? We go forward. We don't have to cling to our old tribal mentalities of I do this, I do that, you do this, you do that. We don't have to stay safe and play it like we always have. We can explore new things. We can make sure we walk 12,000 steps every day. We can lift weights 3 times a week. Our knees might bother us, so maybe we just do the elliptical and squats. I don't know if you should do squats if your knees bother you. I guess we'll find out today in my workout. I guess my point is this. I'm 48 years old, and I may have just over half of my story written. There's a lot left. There's a lot left by God's grace. I mean, this could be the last episode of the Thadcast ever. This could be it. I could get in the car and be driving, some guy, boom, I'm gone. This could totally be it. But I'm telling you right now, I don't want to live like it is. I want to believe there is more for us. I want to believe there is something good that you and I can move towards together. I believe that we can override the toxic, narcissistic voices in our culture today. The people who are heavily-handedly, telling us what to believe is good and right and just. And they're from every side. We have these people who preach fiction about Jesus, about the world, about all that. And you and I are more discerning than some of their little games that they're playing, aren't we? We sure are. We can figure out truth for ourselves. We can figure out our morality between us and Jesus and God's word and our church, right? Right. I'm telling you, we can do some of these things without society telling us what is right and what is wrong. We don't need to bow to this culture around us. We can form our own opinions, and we can be strong and resolute in them and in how we choose to live our lives. Hey, live a life honoring God, right? Live a life that honors and loves the people around you. Have healthy boundaries in place, right? These are some key things, right? Pray a lot, forgive a lot, hug a lot. Yes, even in this COVID-19, hug your safe people, okay? So my point is today, this world is broken. Very, very broken. And you might be somebody who's very broken right now. Or you were like me 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 months ago. Something really broke you. And once this happens, you're not the same. You're not supposed to be the same. You're supposed to take this thing that was given to you and do something good with it. And that looks different for each of us. Your story is not over. You and I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. I would encourage you to start with me today and write a better story. Write an iconic story. Tear away the labels, the negativity, and let's blossom. Let's leverage our gifts and be the people God created us to be in full faith of what Jesus can do in this world and through someone like us, even someone like me. So take a moment, make a list, Read your Bible. Pray. Consider such things and where this path may take you. I think about where it might take me, and I'm filled with hope and joy and passion and fire. And it could be so good. So that's what I'm doing today. That's what I'm doing today. Not trying to go back to an old life. Not posting a bunch of pictures of before and relying on half marathons I've completed or things I've accomplished or achieved. No, that was yesterday. Let's move forward in a positive and encouraged way, because God can do anything He chooses to through you, through me, and in this world. Because it's His world. And we give Him all the praise and all the glory for what He's already done, what He is doing now, and what He is going to be doing in the future. Not the same as yesterday. Different. Better. Much better. So I hope this encouraged you on a different type of a Motivation Monday. I hope you found a moment of peace and encouragement in it. And if you did, let me know. Send me a message. Comment on YouTube, comment on Facebook. Whatever, leave a review in iTunes. Those are my favorite. Those always help. And that's it. That's it for episode 242. I will be back tomorrow. I'm excited that you joined me. Thank you again. And until next time, may you be blessed.